Welcome to the Leadership Launchpad Project. I'm Rob Kalwarowsky, and as always, the yang to my yin is here, Susan Hobson. Susan, how are you?
I am so freaking good. I was just saying before we hit record, I get to head up to my lake house, celebrate a little Mother's Day this weekend with my mom and my daughter. I'm so freaking excited to escape this concrete jungle right about now. How about you?
I've escaped the concrete jungle, so
I know. You got
every
that
day is a beautiful
play
day out
figured out
here.
already. Don't
And
rub
so
it in,
as
sir.
that's right. And so always we got to start off with a quote. And I have one here from Phil Jackson, obviously one of the
Ooh,
greatest coaches
legend.
in NBA history. And he says, good teams become great ones when the members trust each other enough to surrender the me for the we.
Woof. I love it. Shout out to Phil, the OG of all of this mindset, work that we do in the world. I feel like he had the playbook, didn't he? I mean, that quote really, really illustrates that.
He's definitely a wise leader. And with that, obviously, we have our special guest today.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have James J.R. Reid, the host of Coming Up Clutch with JR show and the founder and CEO of JR Performance Group. He's an international performance, mental game, and life strategist. JR, how are you?
Going on? What's going on? Appreciate you mentioning Phil Jackson. I lived in Chicago back in the day, so
What'd you think about the quote?
Yeah.
not bad. I just didn't like when I was a big Phoenix Suns fan growing up too. So I just didn't like the 1993 Bulls, but every other year they were fine.
What do you think of The Last Dance? I had to ask because you say you're a Chicago guy.
Yeah, that was great. I actually I watched the clean version with my kids, my two
Nice.
boys, and they were
Nice.
all up in it.
I bet.
So the good news is they got to watch it and see what winners do. The bad news is now my son has Jordan shoes on the radar, so it's cost me some money.
My daughter asked for those last Christmas, so I feel your pain, JR. I feel your pain. Are you a Michael Jordan fan?
I am.
Okay. What do you think about his mindset?
I mean, you want to talk about obsession?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so funny. I keep getting caught, especially my barbershop moments. I keep getting caught in the whole LeBron MJ debate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, you would never see MJ flopping on the court. Anyway, no, it's the epitome of someone who is almost over obsessed with his craft and with bringing out the best in himself and his teammates. We could argue, was it unhealthy or not? Well, we'll keep that argument for another day, but he won a lot.
Yeah.
And it seemed like everyone he put himself around overachieved. So say what you want to say. He must have been doing something right.
So it's funny. I'm actually listening to the Tim Grover's book, Relentless.
Oh, yeah.
And so Tim Grover is or was the personal coach for Michael Jordan, as well as Kobe and Dwayne Wade and other folks. But he talks about having a dark side.
Yeah.
And using that dark side to push yourself to the next level. And it's what you see in the documentary where it's like Michael Jordan makes up stories about the other guys talking about him. And he's like, and I took that personally.
Yeah.
What do you think about that as a strategy to push yourself to the next level?
So it's an interesting discussion. It gets brought up all the time in my work with especially my private clients. In fact, I have a consultant who's one of the top consultants in the world on the medical side with private equity. And he's aware of his dark side, and we even got in the dark side of flow. And my take on that is yes, I feel like the best of the best have to have that, where the eyes get dilated and it's like locked in. Don't mess with me. I mean, to be honest with you, I see it in myself, especially when I go into the gym. When it's through those doors, I put my headphones on and I go pull up my workout for the day. Like, don't mess with me. Now, the problem is I see not every athlete knows how to turn it on and off. That's where I feel like it becomes a problem. And I mean, it's extensively what I do with my clients. It's like, how do we activate it and deactivate it? So this reminds me of Bo Jackson, by the way. So the dark side doesn't show up in front of your wife or your kids. I mean, that was Bo Jackson's problem. He was such an animal on the football field. It's like he had to find a way to control it. So that just didn't show up at the gas station when someone pulled into his spot. Right. So I think us high achievers, us pursuing the highest levels in our craft, we have to have some sort of a dark side, but we have to be self-aware and mature enough to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off.
I totally resonate with that. Don't mess with me when I'm in the gym. I go into the zone. No. I totally feel you on that front, JR. Since we're on a leadership for business podcast, I know we came out these gates rip roaring on the sporting side of performance, but let's just help our audience plug into how this shows up on the business side of what you do, and maybe even just plug us a little bit into that, the mission that you're on and how all of that was inspired by some of your sporting background. Oh.
Yeah, this mission I'm on, I just say I'm on a mission to help as many high achievers bridge the gap that exists between success and significance. And, Rob, we talked about this. I was the guy who on the outside was checking all the boxes of success, high profile job, beautiful family, but internally I was absolutely miserable. Mm-hmm. And despite the success, I didn't feel significant. I felt instead like a failure. But thankfully, a life-altering car accident woke me up, sparked a major life and career turnaround thanks to counseling and mentorship from some of the top human performance experts out there. And now I get to spend my days giving everything I got to show up as a great husband, great father, and a strategist to these athletes, both executives and pro athletes who just want to win, but not just at their craft. They want to win more often in every area of their lives. And I relate to that particular person because, again, I was winning in just one field of play. And while I was winning there, career, business, I was losing everywhere else. And there's a whole sea of human beings that feel that same way. And that's my mission. I want to address those people and help them bridge that gap, because that's where the joy and the fulfillment and truly living comes out.
I love that. And of course, we have to ask you the question you asked me on the show.
You're going to throw me some of my own medicine? What?
And it was funny when you talked about getting the headphones on and going into the gym like a killer. I was going to say I put my Britney Spears on. And I go
oh gosh, yes, I remember that.
Robert. And so JR, when you go on JR's show, he always asks every guest, what's your most embarrassing moment? And so I shared that I listen to Britney Spears when I do my vocal warm-ups in the morning. So JR, what's your most embarrassing moment?
Oh man. I was going to throw out, there you go. I was going to say, oh, you're going to come at me with the embarrassing moment. I was just going to say, hit me, baby. But then I didn't want to.
One more time.
I didn't want to. I think about, God, there's so many embarrassing moments. But one, I tell this story a lot. It was actually when I was playing college baseball. We were at Michigan State. I didn't tell you this story already, Rob, have I? No. Okay, good. Well, Susan's here, so I guess it's a first time for her anyway.
Please.
So we're at
We'll
Michigan
ask her
State.
her embarrassing moment after.
No, I am not playing that game with you two. Heck no.
So we sucked that year. I knew I wasn't playing that day. So it was like 26 degrees. There was still snow in right field, like in the corner. And I'm going, what are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Just a nasty wind coming in from left field, what have you. So we have 2 space heaters in our dugout, and again, I'm like layered up, not even thinking I'm going to play. Next thing you know, and I'm getting a call in I think it was like the 7th inning or something, like, hey, Reid, you're hitting. And I'm like, I look at my teammate who's next to me, like, the hell, is he crazy? So I strip off. I literally don't even go on deck. I'm sitting by the space heater, just hoping to God, if and when I do strike a ball, my hand doesn't fall off. But my mentality coming, like when it was my turn to hit, I did everything we're not supposed to do as an athlete. I already made the decision of what I was going to do on that first pitch. I said, I don't care where the pitch is, I'm swinging.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Get me out
I just
of here.
want to get this over with as fast as possible. So I go up there. By the way, my hands were back to freezing as soon as I got from dugout to on deck, sir, or batter's box. So here I go. Step in. First pitch is coming. It's a meatball. Like this guy hangs a curveball. And I go hit it. Didn't even, one of those moments where you don't even, as baseball guys, if anyone's a baseball guy listening to this, they know when you hit it and you don't even feel like you hit it, that's a good thing. So I think I just drilled one over the left center field fence. So here I go jogging basically around first base. As soon as I hit first base, I hear these muffled claps. It was from the Michigan State fans. I'm going, what the hell? I see the shortstop throw the ball back into the second baseman and throw it around the horn. The shortstop caught the ball in the outfield grass. I thought I had a home run. The wind was blowing so hard and it was so cold.
Yeah.
That ball didn't even make it halfway to the outfield. So the teammate that was all bundled up next to me is just sitting there cracking up. I felt that big. Like I'm just like, seriously, maybe I should just quit this game because now I really want to go home. That was bad. So since we started the show with athlete talk, I figured to bring that story.
You had to use an athletic story.
That was bad. That was bad.
So JR, do tell though, how does all of this sporting metaphor, because we are infamous for using a ton of sporting metaphors in our work with leaders, but for anyone listening who might not be privy to how those two worlds connect, how do you speak about that? I'm curious.
I mean, again, I have to be careful here because I know not every profession in business, has just this competitive drive like athletes do. But I think there's a big landscape in the business world that does. And the thing is, the parallels are crazy because, let's just talk about identity for a second. Athletes, where they get in a lot of big trouble is they wrap everything into their identity as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Guilty. Because my last game in college, because I had 2 hip fractures, I knew my professional life, my dream, it wasn't going anywhere. That last game of mine, it's funny. Like I'm getting chills just talking about it because my mom was there. My mom passed in 2010. So she was there. I was like, I'm tired of this. I want to get out of the Midwest, whatever. My last game, I made it on first base, fielder's choice. So I was out at second. That was it. It was the last game. We were in the 9th inning. I just realized this is it. That was it. I'm done. And I'm walking off the field crying. After the game, I mean, I'm literally like, I'm a 23-year-old human being sitting on the bench crying. And my mom, God rest her soul, comes up to me after the game. This woman was 100% Italian. So here's the context of that. She goes, "What the hell's wrong with you?
Oh, God.
Why are you crying? I thought you wanted to be done."
Cry.
But I realized
Oh.
my identity was wrapped up. I was a college student athlete who played at a Division I school, who was, da 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 da. I didn't realize it. And that's just it. I'm realizing not many of professional athletes and high-level athletes are feeling that way. And then let's flip to the other side of the game here. There's a lot of business professionals out there who are so wrapped up in their work. Everything, their life is wrapped on, did I have success at work today or I didn't? If I didn't, watch out, whoever's at home. If I did, let me get more of that. You feel me here? So I feel like this is a big topic that I don't care if you're an athlete, active athlete right now, or a business professional. It's something we battle as business professionals. I can keep going, but that's the big one for sure.
Especially high achieving business professionals. The mindset is I'm only as good as my latest shift, right?
I 7 years getting in the trenches and just replaying my own life and journey. And I'm going, what is with especially the athletes who are now entrepreneurs or leaders or executives? Like, what? Where's the disconnect? Like, I bring up this one client. It's like, he's more successful than I am. And I'm sitting here going, you don't know the basic, like, what is going on here? And then again, dark side, like just obsessed so much, burnout, like 12-hour days, 14-hour days, family life is like all over the place. I'm going, what are we missing? Actually, I'm in the middle of writing a white paper on this. So depending on when this episode's published, we'll have to link up on that so I could share it with the audience. But I realized this, the good thing and the bad thing is we have this competitive mindset. Back when I was young and people were talking about hiring, oh, you're an athlete? Oh, shoot, athlete. They love hiring athletes. Why? Because we have this competitive mindset. Well, there's another side of that if we're so competitive all the time, it has this ability to turn into workaholism. So here I go down the rabbit trail of research. And I realized that we're not aware of some of these opponents that we faced even as athletes I was facing, didn't realize I was facing it as that crying athlete at 23 in my last game of college. Number one, we already talked about it. Identity. I call them the invisible four. Our identity and self-worth just wrapped up this over-identification in our role. The other thing is perfectionism. We all want to be perfect. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And if any of your audience like believes in Jesus, like that's the you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so what are we doing pursuing this flawless execution when it's impossible? When you mentioned Kobe Bryant, we talked about MJ, when all you hear from them is fail as much as you can, because that's how much you're going to learn more when you fail. But we still have this invisible opponent of perfectionism. Then the other thing is the adrenaline rush of success. So we get these highs from work achievements. Well, now we're so obsessed with those achievements. Now they're addictions, which Rob, you could talk all about. And because we come over to this business side and we miss the thrill of those athletic achievements. So we just keep pursuing more and more and more. It took me how many years to go, oh my God, these are the same things I faced as an athlete. And then of course I call it part of the invisible four. We talk about a little bit, but it's a sneaky one. It's that fear of underperformance. which we're constantly comparing. Oh God, if he does this before I can, or if that industry leader does this before I, like, now what are people going to think of me and this and that? And again, I finally go, oh my gosh. So if I lean into these four and really bring these things to light and do work around them, now we could go, okay, I can use my competitive mindset for good. I got to be careful of these four guys. And then, let's just keep playing the game. And now it's a game just like we enjoyed as athletes, but we can actually do something for the good for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for our industries.
And this is self-leadership, right?
100%.
And this is where each of those are parts of us that they know a piece of the truth, but not the whole truth. And what you're showing here is as they get extreme in their roles, it's damaging to us. And this is 100% what we coach folks on, right? Is how do we work with those parts? And I just think of it like you're managing or leading a team of parts inside your brain, or you're the coach of those are your players, and you're putting them out strategically in moments where you need them, but then you're also putting them on the bench when you don't need them. And that's the hardest part, is we've spent so much time and these ones are leading us that we need to switch and remember, no. We're the boss.
Rob, if I may, you mentioned a keyword, manage. So Susan, this whole, let's talk athletes, businessmen, how do we bridge this gap, the crossover. Athlete or not, I'm willing to bet majority of your audience has heard the term or the phrase, control your controllables.
Definitely.
I mean, that's what that was like injected into me for years as an athlete. And then I, walked over to the side of business, heard the same thing. And I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. Isn't that what gets us in trouble as leaders when we try to control everything? Wait a minute here. Let's really peel back this onion. By the way, every time I say that, I think of a stupid bloomin' onion, and I hate that thing because I haven't had it in decades. But I hate saying that phrase, and I just said it again. I apologize to all your audiences thinking of that fried, horrible heart attack waiting to happen on a plate.
Not in Canada, they're not, because we don't have the TGI Fridays. But I definitely did in Jersey.
Oh, God. What are we doing in America?
I have heartburn just thinking about it.
Okay, sorry. Sorry for that. I hope Rob told you, I like to have fun on these podcasts.
We're so happy you decided to bring the fun, because clearly we do too.
Here's the thing. Here's what again, another epiphany that I wish I got 20 years ago in my career, both athletically and as an entrepreneur. There's two sides. Let's say you believe in God. Okay, great. Well, are you saying you control everything or he controls everything? So already, again, if you believe in God, we've already debunked control the controllables. Okay. Then let's say you don't believe in God. Let's just say you don't. Well, I don't, the number I was given, now I know there's several other numbers out there, but the number I was given is we have over 37 trillion cells in our body. So what you're saying, Mr. Control the Controllables, is you have control over 37 plus trillion cells in your body? I'm willing to argue that all day. You don't. But there's something about management. There's something when I hear the word manage versus the word control, for some reason, the pressure comes off me. Like, wait, I don't have to control everything. There's just certain pieces of this I can manage. Rob, what you're talking about, whether it's the opponents or whatever's going on in your head, heart, whatever, body. okay, now we can make some progress here. And I've been trying my hardest in conversation and with my clients to debunk this. I get it. I know it's an innocent phrase, control the controls. I get it. Technically, you can argue we're saying the same thing. But really, we're not, because controlling leaders are problems. Controlling people are problems for themselves, because if, again, they think they control every situation, every person, everything in their body, everything in their mind, everything, they're going to wear themselves out mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally, spiritually. So why even try? Why don't we just become great managers instead of great controllers? So that I'm so glad you said that, Rob, because then again, this wasn't scripted. We didn't plan on saying, okay, it's so huge. And I'm so glad you said it. I'm so glad that's your philosophy as well, because a majority of the business world, athletic world, we're totally missing it. Totally.
It's actually funny. So I like, I'm writing a book, and I was talking to my ghostwriter yesterday, and the book's about asshole bosses, is obviously, as you know, JR. And we were talking about,
you're so vulgar.
and we were talking about like micromanagement and like basically trying to get control over people as one of the characteristics. And then we literally talked about that is people are their own asshole boss when they try to lead themselves with this fear and this control and this perfectionism and all these things. And it's, you got to unlearn the assholery.
Yeah. You know, this is just, I love this conversation we're having. I hope you don't mind we went here, but it just occurred to me, the most controlling managers, leaders that were in my life, again, like, I learned more about them once I ran the other way, right? So the a-hole boss.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that the most controlling leaders, the most micromanaging leaders, have something running, like something they realize is uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
There's something uncontrollable happening inside of them they're having a war with, and how it's manifesting is in this, I'm going to control you, Susan, or you, Rob, or you, whoever the heck else you're listening to this. If I were to just survey all my leaders in my life and the ones that I absolutely hated, I'd put a thumb on that one and take my money to Vegas.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, because it's a super compensation, right? So we know neuroscientifically they're compensating for a deficit, right? So yeah, that's why we talk about that power over 1.0 leadership mindset that was born out of an industrial era is largely one that's governed by an insecure leader.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how they're trying to maladaptively manage their stress and anxiety.
And I hope your parents listen. Like, do you have parents that are listening to your show?
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Leaders are definitely parents.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I mean, gosh dang it, you're
two. Not all of them, but surely some of them.
So I have
hopefully not my parents.
That's a whole other show, Robert.
Yeah, I love those show notes. My 12-year-old son, sixth grade, approaching puberty. These kids develop a mouthpiece, and it's interesting. He'll bring, and I love the fact that my son feels like he could talk to his parents, but he'll talk about, the kids who say something to him about because he doesn't have the latest pair of Jordans, or one kid's like, hey, I hit 7 home runs already this year. How many did you hit? And my son's like, I didn't hit any yet. But we're having these conversations. and he's learning, and I'm doing my best. Again, doing my
No
best.
such
I don't
thing
know
as
how good that
perfection.
is,
Yeah.
but he's learning insecurity early. And I feel like as parents, we have to lock into those conversations, because the sooner we could help our kids understand what insecurity looks like and understand that other person, what they're saying, how they're acting, how they're behaving, how they're trying to affect you is not your fault, and it has nothing to do with you. I feel and again, I could be wrong here, but this is just my posture on this. I feel like we could be growing and building and raising stronger leaders in our kids, and we can give them a better awareness of where the bad ones are, so they can say, uh-oh, red flag alert, I'm going that way when it comes to this one.
Oh, this one totally resonates. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and so this is a conversation I'm having in my home on the daily.
Yeah.
In and around these things called boundaries, which I know might be sending some of our high-achieving leaders for the bathroom right now. As I just said the word boundaries. But I feel like that really is where we got to go next with this conversation, right? Because when we're talking about being uber competitive in a maladaptive, super compensated way, we know that that can create or curate a very corrosive competitive environment for our people to play in, right?
Yeah.
So where do those boundaries need to live? How do we hold on to the healthy aspects of a competitive mindset and not allow it to become corrosive for our people?
Yeah. You mentioned the B word, I'm going to mention the A word, and it's not Rob's, book and
asshole bosses.
Accountability. So the people listening who already ran when you said boundaries, now we lost another 50% because I said accountability.
They're out the door now.
Let me circle back to what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, though, I feel, and again, I know I'm generalizing, but you guys are aware of the statistics. I'm aware of the statistics. We got a burned out workforce.
Most burnt out in human history.
Okay. So first of all, it's actually taking the time to go, okay, just like as an athlete, how do I want to show up on this field? What are the things I want to do? What are the things I don't want to do? Like, first, getting clear on that, which again is all tied to identity. Who I am, what do I want to be known for, et cetera, et cetera. Let's just assume people are going to do that. Which JR, I don't have time for that. I got a team to lead, and I got this to do, and I got that to do. Okay.
Literally. That's literally it.
Then keep being mediocre. Keep not achieving your highest capabilities. And if, let's say you do, let's say you get to your highest capabilities. Do you really know you're the highest? But let's just say you do. In your world, JR, that's the best I could do. Great. How's your family life? How's your health? How's your heart? How's your mind? So again, I love when I get in those arguments with new clients, because they always lose and then they stay. For some reason, they hate me. They want to punch me, and then they stay longer because they realize, you know what? What's the alternative? If it was going that great, why the heck are we on the Zoom call? Anyway, let's just say they are clear on that. I know I'm just kind of getting right to it, Rob. You guys know me. I don't cookie cut anything. And I just
please don't. Please don't.
Again, as an athlete, I enjoyed when a coach told me the truth.
Me too.
When a coach looked me in the eye and said, "Hey, JR, you really want to get to this level? Well, I got news for you. We're not winning here. We're not winning here. We're not winning here. And we got to really get better here." Okay. Yeah. Anyway, accountability. Let's say all those things were clear. Who is holding you accountable to show up that way? Big missing piece. Again, now the argument is, well, JR, I'm accountable to my C-suite. I'm accountable to my investors. I'm accountable to my shareholders. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. So when you had the fight with your wife and threw a hissy fit, and you stormed out of the house and you slept in the car that night, and then you showed up to the office and you were a little off in that meeting, who interceded between fight and show up to the office? Well, I can't go into that with my leaders. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is you have accountability in some areas, but not all areas. And last time I checked, it's the person who's really looking into the interconnectedness of life, or I should say, let me rephrase that. The leader who's looking at the interconnectedness of life and not living in silos is the leader that's actually kicking ass and taking names, is the one that has legacy next to his name or her name, is the one who people are coming to advice, is the one who people are being influenced by. Last time I checked, it's the ones who are not living in silos and have accountability in all areas of life are the ones that are really rocking it. And I could tell you from firsthand experience, when that was me. Geez, JR, why'd you bring up the whole got in a fight with your wife and slept in the car? Because it was me. Mr. Half Italian who had a temper. But again, did I have accountabilities in some areas? Yes. Did I have accountability in all areas? No. Was JR in that season of his life living to his highest potential? Absolutely not. Not even close. In fact, I was going the opposite way. So I know no one likes to hear the word accountability, but that accountability is the difference between your ideal future and your worst nightmare. It's just what I've seen in my own life and in the people that I've been helping.
JR, how would you compel somebody who's listening to this to get that courage to start implementing the accountability and to take action to really improve their life?
Yeah. So Simon Sinek says this about hiring people. I might butcher this, but he says, don't hire, basically great people and motivate them. Hire motivated people and inspire them.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say this, Rob, I can't convince anybody. All I can do is inspire them by the way I'm living and the way I'm talking and the way I'm being transparent. Okay. But when I know where you're going and I'm going to answer your question. When I get in the conversation, I go back to my experience because again, I'm dealing with a demographic like me. Stubborn, competitive, has an ego, I check all the boxes myself. Okay. So I'm sitting there going, okay, JR, what really, besides, okay, great, you got in the accident that woke you up, but what really caused you to change? What really caused you to put the habits and routines in place to put your family as main priority and to get your stuff together and to live right and to live healthy and all this stuff we've been talking about on this podcast about leadership? What really got you into courage mode to lean into some of these things instead of avoid them like most people do? And I said, I looked in my kids' eyes and I said, what example am I giving them? What guardrails am I protecting them with by the way I'm acting and behaving and thinking? I went there. Now, some of your audience may not have kids, may not have a family. The point I'm making here, Rob, is I force them into the corner of emotion that makes them look at the things, the people, the pursuits, whatever, that draws out the most emotion, get them that clear picture, and then I pull out the rug and I say, hey, what if all that's gone? what if by you continuing to go the way you're going actually represents two hands on that rug, and slowly, day by day, you're just pulling it out from underneath it? Because we all have what that ideal scenario. It's in us subconsciously, consciously, whatever. It's there. So as soon as I can get that person to really go, this is what I want, and this is why I want it. And in my case, it was my kids, it was my family, is what I wanted to leave them. Man, I was literally a man on a mission, and no one was getting in my way. And I've noticed the same thing. As soon as I go, the quicker I can get there with these. And again, I work with all men. I don't work with any women. No, I'm not sexist. It's just I want to work with knuckleheads like me, who I was. And unfortunately, I'm not a woman. So as soon as I go there, and if I can get there sooner than later, that's when we get accelerated transformation. I know that was the long answer, but man, I'm telling you, like, we could spend 2 hours just there.
You obviously know the high achiever mindset, because Robin always joke, we wish our clients came whistling through the door upstream, like, hey, I could just, realize more of what I got. But oh no, it takes the chokehold for the high achievers. Why does it take pain to awaken a high achiever to that untapped potential, in your humble opinion?
Because that's really the first time we're actually feeling something.
The call.
I feel like we've become so numb to our work, so numb to our world, so numb to past narratives, that we're just not feeling anything. We're just
desensitized.
That I honestly, Susan, again, I've tried to research my way through this, and I just, let's just take all the academic and all the other, I just feel like we're not feeling enough this year. So when you're numb,
you need a jolt.
that
right?
jerk comment you made to your son or daughter, that shortness and irritability you gave that clerk at the store, like, you don't feel it because you're just so numbed by everything else going on in your world.
Lights on, nobody home. So, brick walls and glass ceilings. That's what we say, right? It has to be this like cataclysmic moment for a high achiever to even step into their awareness, in terms of the fact that they are at the helm and they are leading somebody other than all these people that they're so responsible for. Yeah, it turns out leadership starts with self-responsibility.
I know. But, the thing is, Susan, I have to be very sensitive to that, though, because, again, you're looking at me, who it did take a life-altering event to wake me up.
Us too.
It did. Now, the $1 million question is, well, JR, how do you prevent your people and your audience and your, from having to go through that? I can't. Again, not my control. But I could sure as hell talk about it as much as I can, and at least have the conversation. But again, if at any time, this is in my group, my one-on-one, whatever, if at any time I recognize that person I'm sitting across from is not, again, back to Simon Sinek, is not already motivated to change, to figure it out, self-aware enough to go, something's missing here. Like something, there's something more in me that if they're not there and motivated to get there, then I'm sorry.
It's not going to work.
I can't help you. So, yeah, that pain thing, man. But I mean, it's just like marketing psychology too. Like, I hate to go there. All the junk marketing.
Don't get us started, JR, on that front.
I know. I
We
know,
have to, we have to pull out our big guns before we get you out of studio today, because you were talking about your kids. You brought us all the way to looking in your children's eyes, which I totally resonate with, because where we started, right? Rob and I say all the time, the number one play in the Leadership 2.0 playbook is the model carries the most weight, right? And that moment for a parent, hopefully, is an undeniable one, right? But including your family and all this other incredible work that you're doing in the world on your mission, what do you want the legacy of that to be someday?
Oh man, you're really going there with me today.
We're really swinging for the rafters.
You know, man, okay, so I want people to look at me, see my name, whatever, and just say, you know what? This guy did everything he could to help people experience the fulfillment they deserve. And, you know, especially to my athletes and former athletes and, you know, that demographic who's been impacted by my work and of course my family. Like I want them to remember me and go, you know what? My dad, my grandfather, that JR guy, he made it easier to help. He made it easier to win. He made it easier for me to be my best self and just while being myself, not just I was the true DNA version of me while I was pursuing my best and got to my best. I want people to say, you know what, this guy, he made it easier for me to enjoy every part of this game of life that I'm playing. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to be known as the guy who served relentlessly to fill that gap that we spoke about earlier. And I mean, look, I'm 43. Hopefully I got a lot of years to do it. But that's really what it's about for me. There's so many people out there who need to fill this gap. And even in my own family, like they're going to go through it too. And I want to be known as the guy that helped them fill that gap and made it easier to fill that gap.
Amazing. JR, it's been incredible to have you on the show. And
we're done,
folks.
Wow, that was like 5 minutes, Rob.
Nothing but flow over here at the launch pad.
Don't worry, maybe we need to book 2 hours next time.
No, we're not going Rogan style.
A part two, perhaps. A part two.
I want you to gain followers, not lose them. So, cut me off at an hour.
Absolutely. And for folks out there, so wherever you're listening to Leadership Launchpad Project, search for Coming Up Clutch with JR and hit subscribe over there. And then you can also find JR, jamesreid.com. And I've dropped his LinkedIn in the podcast notes as well. JR, is there anywhere else you want folks to find you or anything you're working on you want to share?
You mentioned everywhere. I mean, obviously social media. I'm just James at James JR REID. But you know, the white paper. I mentioned the white paper. So that'll be out. Hopefully that'll be ready to go by the time we're done with this publishing. I don't know. You know, again, marketing.
We can arrange that.
So yeah, but I go into depth about these invisible opponents and just really unpack what they are, what could happen if we don't address them, and then obviously a game plan for looking them straight in the eye and then overcoming them. And then we'll have we're gonna have a webinar out about bringing your best home. And then I have some other free stuff coming down the road. Again, that's probably 2 months away from now. I know we're in May, but stay tuned on that. And I could always share the links with you on that. But that you could find through my website. So
amazing. So everyone, jamesreid.com for that. Obviously for us, hit subscribe to Leadership Launchpad Project on your favorite podcast platform. And for any executive coaching or leadership development needs, head on over to elitehighperformance.com for all of that. Susan, where do you want to leave our folks today?
I love it. Full circle moment. We were trying to make this case in terms of how winning in sports, like winning in business, actually requires winning at life. And that leadership advice, I know we're trying to make a case for on this show, right? This 2.0 human-centric approach to high performance leadership, right? But I feel like we have really helped our leaders understand that, yes, winning at business requires that you actually are knowing who you truly are, right? And what matters to you most, not just in the context of work, but in the context of life. So I hope everybody out there is going to leave this show now that they're back from the bathroom, thinking about that and resonating on that a little bit more deeply, because we happen to fully agree.
I love it. And for me, I want to just echo what JR said and what we've experienced is I had to realize that I would die if I didn't change. But you've listened to my story, you've heard JR's story, you know Susan's story. You can do this upstream of that. And I know that doesn't sound necessarily as compelling, but it's use the technique that JR shared with us. Think about what could be, what you want, what you dream of, and realize that you might not get it on the current path. And so you got to take action. JR, incredible to have you on. You're such an amazing guest and a great storyteller. And I look forward to having you back.
Oh yeah. And I got many stories, man. So anytime your audience wants storytelling with JR, just call me.
Yeah, that well runs deep.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening, and absolutely hit the Britney Spears on your next workout. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.